you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy Sunday. Cheers, everybody.
Happy Sunday. Anybody joining us this evening? Or are you all sick and tired of it? Surely not.
Surely it's a 6 o'clock feature on the busy lives of our lockdown.
Here we go. We're live now. Cheers. Happy Sunday.
Cheers, Finn.
What's all this then, Finn? What's all this?
Bit of South African, what do you call it, merchandise.
Clobber.
So a bit of a little cobweb on this chappie, but he's travelled a long way, all the way from South Africa.
Hello. We have liftoff. Good evening, Pennywoods, and welcome.
Nice to see you.
Cheers from Hannibal Brown.
Cheers.
We have all the animals and the warriors from South Africa and our own very own little warrior. Aren't we? Little warrior.
Great that everyone's joining us here on our second Sunday, sort of back to basics tasting. Last week was France, if you remember the stripes.
Yep.
This week, South Africa. We couldn't find our South African flags, so...
But we're in green. We're in green. I've got blue. Colours of the rainbow. Rainbow Nation.
That's true. Yellow. Gold, should we say. And obviously Mr. Man from South Africa and a token...
Scary elephant.
So I hope... Hi, Sam.
Suffice to say, anybody who's got one of these elephants, the tusks will have been chewed by the dog, which they have.
But that's right, gnarly anyway. Nice to see everyone. So yeah, South Africa, we hope you guys are enjoying our tastings. It just kind of makes you realise that you have so many Zoom calls throughout the week and everyone's actually running out of something to talk about. So why not have a little chat about wine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
Nothing better to talk about. In fact, there is nothing better to talk about than wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Particularly Hannibal Brown's wines.
So quick intro, Hannibal Brown, I'm Jude.
Is anybody there yet?
Yes.
Sorry. Bit behind today.
I'm Jude.
And I'm Pamela.
This is Finn. Little good boy.
And this is Mbogo. and this is Lydia.
We should know the Xhosa name for elephant. If anybody knows a Xhosa name for elephant, you get a 10-point bonus for that.
Oh, yeah.
So it'd be great to know what everyone's drinking, actually. Has everyone managed to get a glass of South African wine with them this evening?
I don't know, but I can see... Evening, Switey, even Samantha Jones.
Sam's got a South African Chardonnay.
Good girl.
Nice one. Very good.
Good girl. I've got, we have, a South African blend, actually, of one of the biggest white grape varieties in South Africa, which is, I should throw that out there, Good evening, Luke Portnoy.
Hang on, Luke might have come in with a Goi Midag. Oh, that's either good evening or it is the Xhosa name for an elephant.
Well, all I'm going to say to you, Luke Portnoy, is lekker. Right then, so Hannibal Brown, what's it all about, Jude?
Well, so as hopefully people know by now, we love our wines from small artisan producers. We are a wine merchant. We sell wine. We deliver all over the country, all over the southwest and London, especially, which is where we're based.
Actually, very important because we've had quite a few questions asked saying, "Oh, we didn't realise you delivered so far." We deliver everywhere. We're delivering to the Netherlands tomorrow. We're delivering to hopefully Scotland and the top nether peak of Scotland.
Even Scotland.
To be honest, the only places we don't deliver to are the USA because of their prohibition laws. And
Arab states,
and Dubai, the Arab Emirates. But apart from that, we can go anywhere. So don't hold back. Share, please.
And open and enjoy, because that's what we're all about. The wines that we sell and that we love are wines that you can afford to crack open when you want to enjoy a nice glass of wine. They ain't £5 a bottle, they're not 3 for a tenner, but they're affordable, they're delicious, and this is a perfect example, the Berry Box.
Absolutely.
Berry Box by Edgbaston. This is actually 2016 vintage, so it's a little bit older than your average kind of easy drinking white wine, but actually it doesn't matter. It's mellowed really nicely and it's really unctuous.
Yeah.
So South Africa, very relevant for so many reasons. Pam spent quite a lot of time working in South Africa.
I have. Where to start, to be honest? I mean, the wonderful thing about South Africa is South Africa's a wonderful thing. But my goodness me, does South Africa have its challenges? And needless to say, its South African wine industry is not very old. Actually, no, that's not true. The first vines were brought in sort of the 1650s by the French Huguenots, and that's quite pertinent actually to the varieties, the grape varieties that you generally get in South Africa. They are mostly French varieties, which would have been brought over by the French Huguenots when they were dashing away from the French to, undercover. But I'm not going to give you a history lesson. But really, the whole apartheid regime was a proper problem because there were sanctions, and those sanctions included all wine exports to anywhere beyond the African nations. And some of you will remember the famous KWV. KWV was a massive cooperative, government operated, and it was the only means of supplying wine across Africa. But other than that, you really couldn't get it. And that all changed when the lovely, lovely, lovely chappie,
Monsieur Mandela,
changed everything. And in around about 1999, I was invited as one of 150 world delegates. So at the time I was working for Harrods, and they invited me and 149 other people from across the world because they wanted to showcase what they could do. This was 1999, so really not very long ago. Mm-hmm. And I was presented with an abundance of different wines, got to see the most fantastic vineyards. And anybody who hasn't been to South Africa or love to see vineyards must, at the first opportunity, get yourselves out to the South African Western Cape. Yes. It is stunning. Their hospitality in their wineries is just to die for. And I've got to throw this in actual fact. The best trade wine tasting I ever did was on top of Table Mountain. Can you believe that?
Oh, fab. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And I've got a joke actually.
Ooh,
I've got a joke.
Is it right? Is it appropriate? Is it
I don't
know.
To
offend anybody?
Like, don't get offended anybody. So, I've got to remember it now.
Keep thinking about it. I'm just going to want to say a big hello to a few people.
I remembered it.
Right, before you forget it.
Okay, you ready? So, why did Dr.
Shall I carry on with the hellos?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So first of all, welcome, Switey's mum. Nice to see you. What a great addition.
Jill White.
Nice
Good evening.
To see you. Steve Roncontra is drinking the Jordan Chardonnay, which we bigged up and presented last week with the canapé with the mushrooms. That was on Thursday, which was super popular. So well done, Steve. Nice choice. It's good as Sunday wine.
Jordan Chardonnay on offer at the moment. It's normally $18.75, and would you believe it? Somebody knocked it back to $18.25.
Wow,
a Billy bargain. But actually, joking aside, it is a bargain. This is almost like top Burgundian Chardonnay. It's phenomenal.
So good choice, Steve.
Yeah.
Faye, nice to see you. Don't worry about drinking the Spanish wine. It's okay, as long as you've got a glass.
Okay, I remember my joke.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
Okay, why was Mr. Hyde banned from South Africa?
I don't know. Why was Mr. Hyde banned from South Africa?
Because he was apartheid.
Oh. Okay, that's bad.
That was rather good, actually.
It's inoffensive, and I'm slightly relieved.
Lekker.
Anyway, Karen, who is a bona fide South African, says, "How's it?"
How's it?
And I seem to think that you just have to say, "How's it?" back, and then you get "How's it?" again, and it keeps going
lekker.
4 or 5 times until someone finally has something to talk about. But there we go. There's South African modern culture for you.
Okay, so just going back to the challenges that South Africans had. So obviously when sort of around about 1993, 1994, the sanctions were lifted, and suddenly South African wine was available to the world. And as I said, for the first 5 years, they really weren't getting anywhere. There was no space, there was no place for South African wine, because as everybody knows, there's so much wine grown across the world. And so it took this delegation of 150 people from around the world to go in there for the South Africans to introduce what they could do. And I tell you what, I mean, I wasn't the only one to have been blown away by it. The quality of the wines. And also, by this time, a lot of European technology and intelligence influence was coming in as well, because they hadn't had it. They really hadn't had it. They were so sort of insular. But that was coming in, flooding in from France and other countries in Europe. And suddenly they had the wherewithal to really, really sort of push forwards. And today, I mean, it's just a thriving industry out there.
So the doors opened after apartheid.
Yeah.
And were the Brits one of the first nations to get in there and say, we want to get your wines, or was it worldwide?
Well, Harrods did, I'll tell you that.
They did.
We got in there very quickly. Yes, I mean, the supermarkets opened, basically they just like opened their doors and said, yes, we want it. Because of course the other thing is that the exchange rate was incredibly beneficial to the Brits and also the rest of the Europeans at that time, because I think it was the rand was around about 25 to the pound, mm-hmm. which was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
it's not far off that now.
Anyway, but then of course, and that was 1999. 8-9 years later, we had the big crash. All sorts of things happened. South Africa started struggling again. The rand suddenly became stronger because the pound was weak. Mm-hmm. And that rand exchange rate went down to 10, which suddenly made South African wine incredibly expensive. And then so the South Africa was faced with another challenge that nobody wanted to buy their wine because suddenly it was too expensive and it wasn't competitive.
Mm. But still good quality, however.
Couldn't compete with the rest of the world.
Just to zoom back to a few comments that are coming in here.
Yeah.
There was a really good question from Karen, actually, asking about rosé. And we will come to that in a minute.
Oh, rosé.
South African rosé. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
Kerry, thanks for the hair comments. Kerry, you're very right. I also had out of control hair and it's getting that way again.
It feels like day 78.
This time it's a poke at me, so don't worry. Maria Arthur is drinking a work of time from Springfield. How's it from lockdown South Africa, Eastern Cape? So from genuine South African residents, nice to see you here. Maria is actually my sister. I'm going to come clean. But I'm glad you could tune in. And Springfield, we're big fans of Springfield. In fact, Pam is very good friends with Jeanette, who's the proprietor of Springfield
Estate. It's a big shout out to Springfield Estate here.
Yeah. They're wonderful.
We don't list them. And we should list them, but in actual fact, there's another agency who actually distribute them. I'm not going to tell you who it is. Well, maybe I should. No, I'm not.
No.
Go and find it. Go and find it. But if you ever come across a Springfield wine, be very, very happy.
And actually, a work of time is a beautiful red wine. I think it's a Bordeaux blend, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just stunning. So we would never not. If you were drinking a bottle of Kumala, we'd give you a push off his stool. But bottle of Springfield, absolutely bang on.
But actually, that's enough of Springfield for them. Let's get back to Hannibal Brown wine.
Yeah.
So the story, if we carry on the story. So the other big challenge that South Africa continually has is its climate. And by and large, everybody would think, oh, they've got a beautiful climate. And they have. But anybody who's actually visited there, you may well have noticed that there's awful fires there regularly. And those fires affect the quality of the wine because the smoke actually impregnates into the grapes and you actually get this sort of like smokiness in the wine, which is, it's not really great. So again, another challenge. But the worst of all is the most recent, which is the biggest drought they've had in 50 years, I think it is.
So actually, I read that their exports last year were down 24%.
Yeah.
Purely because of the droughts,
just
decreasing volume produced.
So that will be the 2018 vintage and 2019 vintage, which will start to come through soon.
Probably is already, summer. Actually. We've got the Blockhead Chenin Blanc.
Well, that's true, actually. There are a few. But equally has been impacted. And the reason why that is that, vines need water, not a huge amount of water, but they do need some form of irrigation. And if there's no water at all, they're just not going to ripen. They're not going to ripen. So actually, importantly, and this could be turned into a bit of a benefit. The alcohols are slightly lower in the last couple of years because the ripening's not there. So people who like their wines, and I think the Steve Roncontra is on this call.
I
think his wife is very, very keen on slightly lower alcohol wines. So we will check our wines and make sure all the alcohols are updated. But certainly in 2018 and 19, you will probably see slightly lower alcohols.
So just want to go back to
you can drink more.
Happy
days.
More sensibly. So Kara's question about the rosé, Lara's actually suggested there's a delicious rosé of Beau Constantia.
Hello, Lara.
So Constantia.
Hello, Lara. Constantia.
Where is Constantia?
Well, Lara, I'm not sure whether I know you, but I was very, very fortunate to work for Klein Constantia, which is right in the middle of Constantia. So what's the question?
Well, that they've got a beautiful rosé, the Beau Constantia rosé, which actually, if there are fantastic producers
they
there,
are.
And therefore you expect a really nice, probably higher end price point at your sort of, let's say, £8 to £13. South African rosé struggles.
Well, actually, to be fair, the sun is still shining outside, as everybody knows. Had we had a decent South African rosé, we'd probably been drinking it this evening. I have, in the years that I've worked in South Africa, have struggled with South African rosé. And we'll take Constantia out of this for a moment. But those of us who love rosé at this time of the year, South Africa generally would not be the place to jump on. And the reason being is that they are one of the few countries who are permitted to blend white wine with red wine to make the perfect rosé. Shock horror.
Now we are going to talk about rosé next Sunday. Sort of back to basics. We're going to talk about rosé at length.
Yes.
And we love rosé.
Oh,
we love rosé. You know, forget that sort of stamp of cheap, sweet plonk. There are some really stunning rosés out there.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into depth with that.
Yeah.
But it has to be said that from much warmer climates, sometimes they struggle to get the delicate edge of the rosé.
And also again, going back to when the South Africans were really trying to get into the UK market, and of course they wanted to get into supermarkets and the the big pubs and bar chains, and of course what the supermarkets and the pubs and bars chain, and to be honest, all of us, we want the most beautiful, light, delicate pink.
Yeah.
And South Africa struggled to get that perfect pink. Most of their wines were looking like Tizer. For those of you who remember what Tizer is.
Orange-ish, let's say.
Orange-ish, yeah. And they just weren't getting their foot in the door because of the colour. And I was working for a big South African winery, and we did, in actual fact, work on the principle that in order to get rosé into the supermarkets, we had to blend white wine with red wine, and popsicle in we went.
Lovely.
It's not the best. It's not the best, but to the eye, it looked very good. Anyway, enough of rosé. We'll talk about rosé next week.
I've got a starter for 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So in South Africa, 55% of the grapes, the wine grapes that are grown, are white grape. But I would like to know which white grape variety you think is the most prolifically grown and white wine produced in South Africa. So which white grape is the most prolifically produced in South Africa?
Okay, and whilst you're answering that question, a message there coming through from Faye Gregory, who is part of the Hannibal Brown plan. The question was, what was that lovely fizzy rosé you used to pour by the glass at the foodie festival? Well, it wasn't South African, Faye, it was Italian.
Carl knows the answer. That was the Sechetto.
Sechetto rosé. We're still listing it. It's about 12, 13 pounds a bottle, and it's delicious at this time of the year. There they go. They know the Sechetto. Steve Roncontra, not great rosé fans here, okay? But there are a few, and Hannibal Brown better than most. But we do.
Thank you, Steve.
We do.
Ooh, oh, Sam, is that a poke?
What?
Chenin Blanc.
Chenin Blanc.
I hope that was a typo. hope that was a typo.
Chenin Blanc. Kerry's got it right, Chenin Blanc.
We love Chenin Blanc. You're right. You're absolutely bang on. That is, it produces 80% or so of all of the white wine in South Africa is Chenin Blanc.
Yeah. So the history of Chenin Blanc is it comes from the Loire and used for Vouvray and in their Crémant, which is their sparklings, and it found its way over to South Africa. And it is, by and large, it is a workhorse. It really is a workhorse for big bulk wines. However, what they found in recent times that actually the older vines, the older Chenin Blanc vines, produce these wonderful, wonderful, sort of really expressive wines with lots and lots and lots of character. So don't diss it, Sam. Don't go and buy a £3.99 bottle of Chenin Blanc.
I actually don't think Sam meant to diss it now.
I like it. I like it.
It was quite a good typo. It was like a Freudian slip.
Oh, yes. Yes. And somebody just mentioned we do have a very nice Chenin Blanc.
Yeah. One of our sort of house wines these days is a producer called Blockhead. They're from the Western Cape. So imagine Cape Town area, it's kind of the wider area.
Yeah.
It's a Chenin Blanc and it is just lovely. It's under £10 a bottle and it's a properly good drinking, soft, easy wine and a crowd pleaser. For people who love Chardonnay and people who love Sauvignon Blanc, Chenin Blanc in the middle really nicely and there's nothing not about it. It's delicious.
Yeah. So here's another question. So South Africa featured in the top 10 world total production, but where? From number 1 to number 10 in volume.
Okay.
How big is it between number 1 and number 10?
Yeah.
And whilst you're thinking about that, just going back to Chenin Blanc, you say it represents about 80% of the white wine.
Yeah.
But there's lots and lots of stuff going on in South Africa, and I've just got one here actually.
The light
goes in.
There you go.
Gewürztraminer, would you believe? But the key on that is the dryness. This is dry Gewürz. Gewürztraminer, better known for Alsace, German wines, really kind of ripe or maybe even a sweetness. But this is bone dry from Boncourage in Robertson. We're selling it. We would have drunk it this evening, but it wasn't cold.
We were there. We were at Boncourage in Robertson in January.
We were.
And it's a stunning...
Okay.
It's a stunning location. We've got a few guesses, which none of the guests so far, by the way, everyone, keep them coming.
7, 6, 6.
Luke is drinking the Boncourage Gewürztraminer. Cheers.
Well done.
You don't see much Gewürztraminer in South Africa, but then when we were tasting a couple of weeks ago our lovely Laureatus Albino, we were talking about that actually in South Africa they've started to grow that too.
Yes.
And it sort of shows how they're opening their hearts up to some other great varieties.
Yeah.
They're willing to, they're happy to experiment and they're doing well and with different characters.
Yeah.
And that Gewürztraminer, Luke, if you're there, what are you eating with your Gewürztraminer? We really need to know because it's really nice and dry, but it's got all those lovely tropical aromatics because Gewürztraminer is known for being like white cheese and.
With Steve Ronconda is yesterday and even used some of it to cook his chicken in. Well, I hope that's a good thing.
No, why would you cook with rubbish wine? I never understand. You've got to consume it.
Right, we have the correct answer. So in the top 10 of total world production, South Africa is 9th.
Mm-hmm.
However, Jude?
So 9th out of 10, but they only account for about just over 3% of world production, which is really quite small considering they're in the top 10. It's
all, it really is, and it's going to be even less this year. So
but why would it only be 3%?
Because the lovely froggies, the Italianos and the Italianos represent 65% totality, just those three.
Okay, so the top places produce.
And then we've got the US chasing the heels, and the Chinese are coming, although we won't see Chinese wine for a while, I shouldn't think. Oh, doggy's having a little slurp. Slurps.com, here we go again. Slurps.com. Hope all your doggies are well, everybody. So in the grand scheme of things, South Africa is still very small and still faces these challenges. The other biggest challenge when I works in South Africa is the employment equality, and we cannot get away from this. And it is a big problem.
Mm.
I mean, I was, British, white, female, going into, an environment which was, black, coloured, white, and kind of
Male.
segregated and very male orientated,
Yeah.
but very segregated, and a real sort of difficulties, because you've got to keep the status quo, you've got to keep everybody happy, and keeping that country with its history happy is tricky. The good thing, or well, arguably not such a good thing, the reason why South African wines tend to be quite, reasonably priced is because production resources, employment is cheap, and yeah, what can you say?
But at least they're treating their workers better now.
They do.
So
they absolutely do.
That previously they were getting paid with presumably vouchers and wine, which is just totally unacceptable, and that has changed.
Yeah, and that is big on our choice of wines that we list, because we're not going to go down the route of wineries who are not necessarily performing
ethical. It's got to be ethical.
Exactly. So the Jordan estate, the Edgbaston, which is that's the Berry Box's red brother, the Pepper Pot, from Edgbaston estate, again in Stellenbosch. I mean, these are really fine, great wineries. And here's another one. For those who like their slightly lighter wines in the summer. The Winery of Good Hope Pinot Noir. We stayed just bang opposite that actually in January, didn't we?
Yeah, lovely.
Nice, light, refreshing, and you can even put an ice.
Oh, so just going to zoom back to food options, because actually there's quite an interesting conversation going on here, because Luke has said that it usually go with sort of an Asian-y theme, but they're having chicken marinated in coconut and mango. That sounds quite frankly amazing. We haven't had dinner yet, starving. But Steve he thinks the Bon Courage isn't as well suited to Southeast Asian, more down the Alsace route, and
fair enough.
Possibly because they tend to be a little bit less dry and a little bit more oily. Yeah, a little bit more riper.
Whereas the Bon Courage is proper bone dry. All the aromatics, but it doesn't have the unctuous.
But still works really nicely then as an aperitif. But it's always interesting trying these things. At the end of the day, what else have we got to do other than eat and drink?
Yeah.
So keep testing, I'd say.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go zoom quickly back to talking about our wine.
I haven't got any more jokes.
Talking about the wines that we're going to be tasting on Thursday. For those of you that have joined us on a Thursday, you'll know that we're picking 2 wines every week, and we're putting out the canapé suggestions to go with them, and the recipes as well. So we've got our next 2 week our wine on Thursday on the website, which is our Bodega Rioja 99. So that's a 99 vintage.
21 years old it is.
Ancient. And we've got the canapé recipe on the website. I'll pop the link on just now. And then the wines are Sancerre that's not Sancerre, which means it's a wine from Sancerre, but it doesn't carry the big hefty price tag. And there's good reason for that. And it's a really lovely Sauvignon Blanc. So those are the 2 wines for Thursday. We've got the canapé recipes on the website. Obviously, if you fancy joining in with those wines, give us a shout and deliver the country. There's loads of time. I'm also going to be letting you know a few weeks to follow as well, so you could pop together 6 bottles. And
we'll publish it once tomorrow. You'll know tomorrow because we didn't got ourselves sorted out today.
Send me that over. Okay. There we go. So immediately going to slide that over and pop it onto mute.
Okay.
Has
Definitely
anyone got
with an Aussie Chardonnay? Okay.
Pot noodle with an Aussie Chardonnay. Actually, you say that, but pot noodles are kind of unusual. They're very salty.
You're not going to last very long if you eat pot noodles.
Oh, thanks. He's popped the link on there already. But it's rely on people like you to keep this thing moving.
Fantastic. So, German South Africa. On the website hannibalbrand.com, there's a lot of wines that I haven't even mentioned. In actual fact, John T. Stucks. Check out John T. Stucks. story about the ducks. Very, very, very important. Have a look at the video. It's very, very funny.
Yeah. Where's Jonty's from? Because there's actually most people, I think, have heard of Stellenbosch.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In fact, that is the famous South African appellation. Appellation in South Africa. It's a designated region. Yeah. Obviously, lots of people will have visited Franschhoek, which is nearly next door. Franschhoek has got this lovely wine tram that you can get on, which is actually mostly a bus, but you do a bit on a tram, and it's fantastic. So these places are all in the Western Cape.
Yes.
What about the Eastern Cape? What happens there?
Not a lot. Which
is what came from Maria's question, actually.
Not a lot. They don't have the right climate. It's generally cooler, generally moister. They don't have the right soil. They don't have the westerlies, the prevailing westerlies coming through. It's just, if you look at the whole world of wine, think of California, think of Cornwall, think of France. It's all West Coast, because having those prevailing winds coming through keeps it nice and fresh, stops rot.
Actually, it's an interesting point, because when I went to visit Maria in South Africa, they live in Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape, probably hence the question. We did go to visit, I think it was the first, maybe the only winery in the Eastern Cape. And that will, just one visit will probably tell you that you're better off in Stella.
But I mean, a lot of it also is history. So you know, it's back to when those people came and started plantings, and that's where they decided to plant, because that's where they thought the best opportunity was, and that's historically where it stays. And so, you know, for 350 years in South Africa, they've been producing wine, but only really shot at it in the last 20 or 30. But here's the bombshell. So we've got lots and lots of wines on the website from South Africa. But the bombshell is that the South African government announced this week, the beginning of the week, that all future exports are banned for the foreseeable. So there is no more wine allowed to leave South African wineries. Anything that's already on the boat, and at the moment we're out of stock of blockhead Shiraz, that will still arrive with us eventually, sometime in May, but nothing else can leave. It's a massive impact on the wine industry, and they're trying, the wineries in South Africa are desperately trying to get those sanctions lifted. But at the moment, South Africans are saying,
So Wayne's got an interesting question here about which South African Merlots would you recommend? Now, Merlot is a interesting grape, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one that doesn't necessarily cope well with really warm climates.
Well, here's the thing, fact. No, Merlot, if it gets too hot, the climate's too hot, then Merlot struggles to grow. The Merlot grape struggles to grow, and it doesn't produce acidity. Now, you need acidity in your wine, and the reason you need acidity in your wine is if it's not there, it just falls apart. We're not going to go and talk about Pinot Grigio, that's for another day.
No,
but it's a great example of a wine that just doesn't have anything to it. But just going back to how the wine industry in South Africa evolves, and so brilliantly in the sort of even last 10, 15 years, is that they've discovered that more and more blending is the way forward. So a lot of South African wine, the majority of South African wines these days are blends. So Merlot in a blend with, say, Cabernet Sauvignon or Shiraz works brilliantly. Similarly, Shiraz with a blend of Cabernet or something else. These blends are really, showcasing South in a way they weren't before. So if you want to search in South Africa, shy from single varietals. So 100% Merlot. If you like Merlot, go for Merlot with something else in it
to give it a bit of structure.
Yeah, and balance and hotness and what have you. But these blends is really something that South Africa's shouting about, and quite rightly so. Actually, it's really
gives the winemaker an opportunity to create their own wine from some really good components.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam, just quickly, a good quote. I won't drink any Merlot. What's that movie? What movie is that from? I'll let you guys.
There's an awful lot of talk about Australia here.
Yeah,
talk about Australia.
No, but Kerry was asking about how come Valley and Mudgee in Australia are both on the east side, but produce some really good wines.
Oh well, I think I answered that question.
And Australia is in the middle of the ocean, so we'll just consider that a different climate, and we'll do Australia in a few weeks' time. But it's a good point. There's not necessarily all west side.
No, it's not all west side, but it is. Think of Chile. Think of Canada.
Let's go. We're good at generalisations. Look at the fact that we're always bashing.
I just want to on this declaration: sardines. What's all that about? Talking about sardines.
I know, but cool. I'm hungry, and I would love a sardine right now.
Something I mentioned about.
And so Karen's got the right answer with sideways. I think there
was there.
Well, to do with the film, but anyway, go on. Let's talk about the bubbly.
The bubbly. So, champagne lovers out there, the South Africans produce fantastic sparkling. This is just one example. Jacques Brouwer, a Blanc de Blanc, which means 100% Chardonnay. Don't worry about that because the majority of champagne's made using Chardonnay. This made. They call them capique, and they are made in exactly the same way as champagne, and they are a fraction of the price. So this little guy, he kind of sits among non-vintage champagnes that probably sell around about £35 a bottle, and he's like £16,
£16.99, and also this is a 2011 vintage, so
and it's vintage. Oh my god! Well, even more.
It's a really stunning bubbly. If you do like champagne or even Cremant, or just bubblies that are a little bit more interesting in Prosecco, you must check out the Bon Courage Jacques Brouwer Blanc de Blanc. It is stunning and a bargain.
Yeah. But, I mean, these are all from sort of relatively small producers, but they're all getting excited that they have realised that there's an opportunity to go down the bubbly route. And these wines are competing with, as I said, with really good quality champagne. And as I said, they're a fraction of this.
I've got another Start to Pretend that we've not mentioned that I need to put out there. And do get any more questions out there. Any other questions about South Africa, we're obviously very happy to answer. But here's one. It's got two parts, so I'll wait for someone to answer the first one and then I'll ask the second one. The red grape variety that is indigenous to South Africa.
Yes.
We've not mentioned it. We do listen. Very good. The one we've got is very, very nice.
It's very controversial. It's very controversial.
Yeah. But it's a South African indigenous grape variety, so what is it? And now I'm just going to look at, Sam's got a question or a point. You said that their rosé isn't good. Haven't a South African pink fizz? We don't list a pink fizz in South Africa. No, we have tried.
Good question.
Courage, when we were out there, we tried their pink sparkling.
That wasn't any good.
Good enough for us to list. It was a little bit sweeter, and I did have it at a party New Year.
Good question. It's a good question. Yeah. We will listen to that.
Well, a pinotage. Pinotage. Well done, everybody. Okay, so pinotage is a hybrid of two grape. It's got two grape varieties. Okay, this is quite tricky. Two red varieties. One of them, the name gives you a bit of an idea. The other one is slightly more tricky, but does anybody know?
The Arge. Think Arge.
Yeah, so...
What's the Arge?
Just as a little example, Cabernet Sauvignon, a grape that we all know and love. Cabernet Sauvignon's parent grape varieties are actually Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. And those two were... whatever you do to make something a hybrid.
Grafted together,
if you like, and produce Cabernet Sauvignon. So pinotage is a product of two parent grape varieties. What are they?
Come on, 10 seconds. You've got 10 seconds.
And in answer to your question earlier, Karen, there's no prizes. There's no free bottles, but you will get, a big out of the head and a raise of the glass.
Okay, so whilst you're thinking about that,
1 out 2, Karen. Okay. Whoa, have you been doing? Very good, very good.
Also known as, so Pinot Noir is one of them, and Sanso is one, but that doesn't,
why would it be called
Pinotage? Where's the Arge bit coming from?
So like many grape varieties, like Syrah has another name, Shiraz, Trebbiano has another name. Uni Blanc is the other name for Trebbiano.
Stephen Conscious says he used to know. Come on, think.
Sanso has also another name it's known as.
Okay, so whilst they're thinking about that, I think so this is this listing purpose is a little chit chat on a Saturday evening. Mm-hmm. On Thursday we will have wines and canapes, but we're also, if you go onto our website, you'll find a whole bunch of DIY tickets. So if you want to get your friends and family up and down the country involved in doing your own tasting, because sadly we can't come to you at the moment, but we can do it virtually. So just as an example, in a couple of weeks' time, we're doing a tasting customer where we've delivered wine to 12 different households. They're all going to tune in through Zoom, and we are going to present the tasting on the evening. So anybody who's doing that, if you've got the wherewithal to organise 12 households, and I'm quite impressed by this.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Then please think of us. Otherwise, your own DIY tasting kits, there's a whole bunch of them on the website. Just go onto the website.
That's right. Yes, surely you know.
DIY tasting kits. That's it.
Yeah, you can find them on there. It's really fun to do.
Samantha Jones has got the answer.
I think she was beaten to it by Luke, and I just wanted to point out Wayne's comment, which was
hangover.
Well, as we will always say, rubbish pinotage, rubbish anything is probably a hangover, in fairness. But yes, Pinot Noir and Hermitage Pinotage.
Yeah.
So well done, everybody.
Yeah.
And no way, you're not going to get a hangover from our Pinotage.
Just a word about Pinotage, because it is kind of like controversial, and well, it has been, because it really sort of divides opinion. In fact, for a long time, 90% of people thought it was bloody awful, which it was.
There was a lot of
it was. It had this kind of like burnt tire characteristic, which was just not attractive. But for a long time, people just didn't know where this characteristic was coming from, and there were all sorts of sort of research that was trying to go into why was it that this character, this flavour and this aroma was coming off this, and the consensus was that it was unhygienic wineries. And I can actually vouch for that, because in the early days, in the early sort of 2000s, when I was spending a lot of time going into the big wineries sourcing wine for a major company, was where we needed millions and millions of litres. The state of those old cooperative wineries, this is sort of pre-apartheid, were pretty disgusting, and as soon as you walked into those wineries, the smell was like, it's not good. And Pinotage, of course, was very popular at the time, because it was a blend which was created by South Africa, and South Africa wanted to shout about it, but it just wasn't very nice. But things have changed, because since they pretty much agreed that it's unhygienic winemaking, things have. The hygiene is so much better. In fact, it's up there with best now.
Yeah, no way with it anymore.
Pinotage is worth a look. So you still get these sort of like tobacco-y, sort of like tobacco-y tar, quite sort of deep earthy characteristics, but they're not dirty. And we've got one hazy,
lovely,
which is quite light.
Wine.
It's worth a try. It's not expensive. I think it's under a tenner. Under a tenner. So yeah, give it a go.
Give it a go, definitely. And actually, one other thing we need to shout about that we haven't done for a wee while, and unless there are any other questions, we'll be wrapping up soon, so we can all get to our dinner. And actually, Finn has totally lost interest. Big guy.
Oh,
big guy.
Oh.
So we're going to have to entertain him as well. But in these times of lockdown, these troubled times, you know, there is something that we do which will really cheer people up. If you want to, if there's anyone who needs a bit of a nudge and a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a smile on their face, we have a personalised label service where we can use photographs and messages, and we can design labels on bottles, and we'll send out. It only has one is the minimum, and it's a really thing to do. We've done a lot for people at the moment where we just send them, and it's basically cheering them up. It could be their dog. This is Kingsley. He came to visit us at Blenheim Palace at a horse trials we did an event at. But it could be a picture of your family. It could just be a bit of a joke. But send them the thing. We'll design the label for you on a really nice bottle of wine, and it's a really lovely thing to do for people. Yeah. So personalisedwinedesign.co.uk.
Any message you want.
Any message, yeah. And we'll keep all the provenance of the wine. And as you know, our wines, it'll always be a nice bottle of wine. So it's a really fun thing to do. And, you know, these times, it's just nice to send gifts to people because at the end of the day, they're all going up the walls.
I got one.
You got one?
I got one. It brought a tear to my eye, in actual fact.
Even though...
But I'm not going to say anything. Okay. I'm not going to say anything because this goes back to who I used to work for at the very, very beginning of my career.
Oh yeah, okay. We'll save that.
But I'm going to save that. You'll have to tune in to find out who that was. It's very funny.
But so Thursday, Rioja, 99 Rioja, and our non-Sancerre. Sunday, rosé. Let's hope the sun's shining. Yeah. Stop doing that.
Yeah, I get the forecast. Okay, tomorrow, not so good for the next few days. Okay, again next week. So yeah, rosé.
So we hope that you guys have enjoyed your South African little masterclass and the wines you've been drinking with it.
Faye's just said she thought I was going to do a little dance to cheer us all up. Okay.
No, don't do it. That's what the table's for. That'll be later on in the evening. But Kate McLeod has come in. I'm not sure what that stands for. But oh no, everyone wants you to dance. We've not drunk and there's been no food involved. There you go. Yeah, that's good. Rock the logo. Sam's very happy about rosé. We will be drinking our lovely Provence rosé, which is a Chateau d'Olière. It's delicious. It's stunning. It's better than any whispering angel you can
Who said whispering angel?
So definitely encourage to get a bottle of that in. Luke's braai is nearly ready, so perfect timing.
Lekker.
Get the boerewors on there.
And I say a big thank you to the South Africans who've joined us this evening.
Thank you, Maria and Wayne.
And I think we've got the Northern Irish here this evening as well. Scotland, come in, Scotland. Is Scotland there?
I think with people from all over, and it's really lovely for everyone to join us. And please do share. Anyone you know who fancy a bit of a whiny laugh on a Sunday or a Thursday, please do share with them because the more the merrier. You know, we'll be here. You'll be here, hopefully. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone.
Oh,
Sam, yes, we can put you in a bottle of rosé. Oh, there you go. Sam, yes, we can put you in a bottle of rosé with the others. Give out. You know where we are, and we know where you are. We hope everyone's keeping well and staying safe.
What's she done?
Is that a puiki?
A puiki. It's a puiki.
I don't know. I don't know the spelling. It's all very weird, but it's all very South African. So well done, and thank you, Sam, for pointing out the Whispering Angel is overrated. Yeah. So cheers, everybody. Lovely to see you.
How's it? That's about it.
Pim says cheers as well. Cheers, Pam.
Tune in this 7 o'clock. See you then. Take care. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
And only drink good wine. Hey,
yeah.
Hey, Finn.
I'm not, but wine kills everything. Oh, I said it again.
Oh, no. Right, okay. And on that note, bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all. Oh, we're still there. And then we're still here.